Mela everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Ethereum has been running hot lately. Let's talk a little bit more about this. Is this going to keep running hot? Or are we going to hit a resistance level? Or is this all just a false breakout? And this is the last run up here. This is a double top and that we're going to end up going down. And the cycle is going to be over pretty soon. What do you think? Let's talk about it. I'm going to try to pull up a few indicators here and kind of show you a few things that I'm seeing here. First of all, I'm going to put up to the 2-week chart here and I'm going to show you what I think Ethereum has been doing this cycle. It's been doing the same thing as the last cycle. It's been doing the same thing the cycle before that. It's got a long trend line here that's been holding, long trend line here has been holding, a trend line here that's been holding. And whenever you have a lot of tension that's being built up, sometimes you would expect you just keep bouncing, go up a lot higher, right? It looks like it's got a little bit of a ascending triangle here. Nope, had a little bit of a false breakdown here. Went down to grab liquidity, take out your stop loss, deleverage, y'all. Get the sentiment for Ethereum extremely bearish amongst retail investors. And next thing you know, you have a little bit of a pump there. Everybody's losing faith because you got a little bit of a cup and handle pattern over here. And you have a little bit of the bearish backtest here. Everybody's super scared about this backtest too. Next thing you know, you're just having a big breakout, and next thing you know, Ethereum went from 1400 all the way to 4600 in just a matter of a couple of months. And what you're seeing here is the same thing happened the time before that, although it lasted a lot shorter period of time. This whole cycle here just seemed a lot longer. This trend line has been a lot longer. This trend line here is a lot shorter. This trend line here is even shorter. It just seems like every single cycle just seems to be a little bit longer over time. Now, we did have that liquidity grab, the stop loss taken, the sentiment reset with COVID. You had 2 wicks down here below. And that was it for this cycle. Here, you spent about 2 months underneath this trend line here, scare a lot of people, shake a lot of people. And next thing you know, just end up going a lot higher. This is a pain phase, I guess. It's like pain is pleasure, I guess, kind of thing. We're no longer angry. Everybody was angry down here. Everybody's angry down here. Everybody's angry down here. A lot of people probably capitulated from these levels down here below. It's exactly designed to do that to you. And it's unfortunate if people end up doing that because you already had previous cycles to kind of view in terms of what to kind of, probability-wise expect what might end up happening. And certainly it ended up having a big V-shaped recovery. And so far, Ethereum holder, especially at bought down here, that would have been a great risk-reward ratio. Certainly right now seems like it's going a lot higher, doesn't it? Now, put up a couple of things here. I do want to look at the monthly chart here. And what you see here in the monthly chart are, you see in these fit levels over here, it is breaking, the cycle is finally breaking above the 0.886. Now, a lot of times this is like the final boss. I made a video about the top 11 stocks or tickers that look like they might be Palantiring. About the majority of them, about half of them, are in the process of breaking about the 0.886 over here. And whenever you break about 0.76, especially break about 0.86 log fib, it really does build up a lot more volatility here to the upside. It really tends to favor for breakout in all-time highs when I see some behavior like that based on Fibonacci levels. You've got rejected here 3 times, 1, 2, 3 times at 0.86, and now I think we got a pretty clean breakout here. The month is still young. You got another 2 weeks before the month is over. But it looks like we got a little bit of a clean brick over here. And whenever we get this clean brick, I think we're going to probably end up making some all-time highs. I think some of these higher levels are going to end up being hit. And if it continues for a lot longer and a lot crazier, then I think that some of these higher levels could also potentially be hit, but one level at a time. First, we need to break about the previous all-time high, which is around 4,860 something, depending on the exchange that you look at. And if we are able to break about that, then you're talking about some of these higher levels above, and Ethereum could end up doubling over the next couple months in a hurry. It's possible. The reason why I also say that is because if you look at the monthly Bollinger Band, it's starting to expand here to the upside and to the downside. A lot more volatility is going to end up coming because you have the Bollinger Band expansion finally, and you have the up curling of this 20-month moving average finally. All of these things basically is saying, hey, more impulsivity is going to come. You have a little bit of Bollinger Band expansion and contraction here. I think this is still a huge consolidation zone, But you see how the previous cycle, whenever you end up having the Bollinger Band expansion, that was really the beginning of this parabolic bull phase on the way up. And I think we might be basically experiencing something very, very similar here. Now, in addition to looking at the Bollinger Band and Fib level, you can also look at the Ichimoku. I'm seeing a finding here called the bullish katana. Katana is when you're looking at the Ichimoku cloud, you have a lot of these different lines over here, and you have an Ichimoku cloud over here. Now, all these lines and the Ichimoku cloud itself can serve as support or resistance. All of these are basically calculated by a moving period average. And whenever you have huge volatility that happened over the last 9 candles, which it did happen here for Ethereum, you end up having this thing where the last 9 candles engulf the entire past 52 candles, I should say, or actually it's more like 26 candles, I should say. If you end up having the last 9 candles engulfing the last 26 candles, then you get the fusion of this blue line and the red line. And when this fusion happens, it tells you that there's going to be a huge move that's going to come soon, because it's already starting to flex its volatility. That means usually volatility is going to continue, depending on which side it is. Right now, price is above the katana, and the katana with this fusion of the red and blue line, or the Tenkan Sun and the Kijun Sun, it looks like it wants to keep going up here and explode to the upside. Last time when this happened here, back in September, October, and ended up pointing up here in November, and I think we're getting that here in August. We just kept on going up months number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, before really seriously cooling down here for a few months, and then we have another leg up on the wave 5 up. Right now, I think we might just be beginning the wave 3. We might have months and months and months and months of green candles that could be coming. Now, granted, you are at the previous all-time high, or near the previous all-time high. That could be a resistance zone. And if it ends up coming back down and backtest the previous resistance zone over here, the 0.86, somewhere around 38,000, it's not a bad thing. That would be a higher low, and that would be welcomed for further bullish continuation. Although because of the crazy volatility that is showing right now, I think that most likely Ethereum is going to end up just keeping pushing up a lot higher over time. And I think Ethereum is going to end up doing pretty great moving forward. If you also just look at the weekly, it looks beautiful, beautiful breakout of the cloud. Same thing on the 2-week chart here, you see a little bit of a katana here as well. So everything is kind of pointing up to having more impulsivity. Bollinger Band expansion here on the 2-week, Bollinger Band expansion here on the weekly, Bollinger Band expansion here on the daily. You have Bollinger Band expansion on all time frames, and it looks like Ethereum just wants to keep going up and up and up and challenge the previous all-time high over here. Are we going to end up pushing through on the first try, you might ask? It's hard to say for sure. Now, this is based on Coinbase data. If you do the order block, I'm not seeing any selling here on the monthly. If you look at the weekly, though, you do have somewhat of a selling block up here about. So somebody's trying to sell from the previous all-time high here. Although I don't know how big and how strong the selling block really is, to be honest. And the selling block was set, all the way back here from the cycle top here. I just don't know whether or not this is that big of a concern anymore, especially when momentum is on its side from multiple time frames, including Fib levels, including Bollinger Band, including the Ichimoku cloud breakout. Ethereum is looking great. I think it's actually a very, very good idea to keep holding on to Ethereum. I can't tell you what you should do. I'm just letting myself know what I should do. I have Ethereum. I'm very, very happy to kind of hold on to it and see what it does. Now, a lot of people might not have access to buy cryptocurrencies. A lot of people might not have the ability to get exposure for Ethereum for whatever reason. It is hard to know that for sure as to why, because you have these ETFs such as ETH and so on and so forth that you can get exposure to Ethereum. But what ended up happening, there's an interesting phenomenon. A lot of people end up getting into these Ethereum treasury companies, and there are quite a few big ones here. I just want to kind of go through. The big one is going to be BMNR, which is set by Tom Lee. And also Cavi Woods is in this, the creator and the manager for the ARK funds. You also have Peter Thiel, who's a legendary investor that was an early investor for Palantir, is also in this. So what are we looking at here? Well, you have had a huge breakout here. I'm going to look at the monthly chart. You have had a huge breakout here, but you got rejected here. The reason why this is a monthly chart, reason why is because whenever it started becoming Ethereum treasury, it got really hot really fast, and it just ended up closing way outside the upper Bollinger Band with a huge break above. If you would have bought this all the way up in the 100s, that far away from the monthly Bollinger Band, you are doing it wrong. You wanted to wait for it to kind of pull back here to the upper Bollinger Band here, and it did end up doing that here in August, and that might have been a better entry down here closer to the upper Bollinger Band. With that said, where are we at right now? Is this a good buy? It's hard to say. It's got a little bit of a monthly bullish engulfing candle, which is promising, but on the other hand, it is also quickly approaching a resistance level up here at $82.46. That could be resistance for BMNR. Now, it's hard to say if this is a true Ethereum treasury, true Ethereum play, then it should follow the fundamentals of Ethereum and it should go up a lot more. But we are seeing some technical resistance here, and this is not just in the monthly time frame. This is also on the 2-month time frame, and this is also on the weekly time frame, right around $82.46. On top of all that, if you look at the Bollinger Band, on the weekly here, the upper Bollinger Band is around $87.80, somewhere around there. So I think that it probably has enough room to keep pushing up until it hits the mid 80s or so. And then you might end up seeing some key resistance here, and we have to see how it battles. It is promising that it did break above into the Ichimoku cloud here. On the monthly, it is promising that it broke above the 2-week Ichimoku cloud and back tested it. And it looks like it found very good support down here, but is still stuck in a range until otherwise proven. And same thing, right? A lot of room here down below. It's hard to say exactly what this stock is going to do. I think it's got enough momentum to get up to $82.40 something, 46 cents. What it does after that, I have no idea. So that's why I'm not really, necessarily entering BMNR, but it's not bad looking. Another one that a lot of people are looking at is SBAT. SBAT is a little bit trickier. The reason why I say that is because it's also range bound. You have this Tenkan and Kijun up here around 63. I suppose that could potentially be a target where it could hit, but if you look at the weekly, it is battling a very important resistance level over here, which is the downward sloping Tenkan over here. Whenever a resistance is downward sloping like that, generally it can serve as some pretty decent resistance, and it is facing resistance right now as we speak, and we're feeling it. So whether or not it's going to get over that and get it a lot higher to the 60s, we'll see. I think this is the reason why Ethereum has been pumping and SBAT's been lagging behind. You can say that the reason is because of dilution. I guess that applies to all of these treasury plays. But they're diluting and buying Ethereum. Honestly, I don't think it really should impact the price action by that much. You don't really have much of a selling block down here on the weekly until you get up to much higher levels up here around the 80s. I think it's just range bound. It's hard for me to say what it's going to do immediately. And because I don't have to have an answer for everything, because I don't know everything, I tend to want to stay away from it. But this is a pretty decent bounce off my support band. My support band is upward sloping, so I'm going to end up favoring this to do well. Although it does seem to be running into some pretty key resistance currently, right now as we speak. That would be another play. Now, another one that is being looked at here is BTBT. BTBT has been range bound here for literally years, for like more than 2 years. It's been stuck in a range, getting rid of the Ichimoku here. You can see the top part of the range is closer to about $4.50 to $5. Bottom of the range over here is closer to $2 to about $1.70. It's just been range bound. Right now it's stuck in the middle of the range. As far as I'm concerned, I think if it's like on the lower part of the range over here, it's probably a good buy. If it's a upper part of the range over here, it probably is still a buy because it's just been consolidating sideways over here, forming a rectangle pattern here. Basically, it's a big giant rectangle here. These things generally favor continuation. The primary trend seems to be up. So whenever this is done consolidating, the primary trend is going to probably end up being resumed to the upside. But just like all the other Ethereum treasury plays, you can see how it's hitting resistance right there on the 20-month moving average. You can see how it's hitting resistance here at the tank in the kitchen here on the monthly. On the weekly here, you can see how it's still underneath the Ichimoku cloud. It's still trying to battle the weekly tank in the kitchen. So all these plays are under resistance here. Now the good thing about this is, just like all the other crypto stocks, they're more Bitcoin related. If you look at BTBT, I find this to be favorable. I actually like this play. Is because I see a lot more various support here that I did not really necessarily see on the other plays earlier. They're just kind of hanging out in space. For this one, I see a couple things. First of all, I see the Baraka support band being supported. Second of all, I'm going to put all the other moving averages here. The blue right here is the 50-week moving average. The purple here is a 100-week moving average. The black right here is the 200-week moving average. You can see how it's basically reclaiming all these different weekly moving average, right? Bullion support bands consist of the 21-week exponential moving average and the 20-week, normal simple moving average. It's basically reclaiming all of these things as support. On top of that, it's trying to push through the tank in the kitchen. So it's kind of stuck in a range here, but it's finding a lot of possibly slipping moving averages as support. I find that to be more or less favorable, right? The couple other things too, I also think that the current zone of confluence, if I look at, I haven't done this for a while, if I look over here at the anchored volume weighted average price, or AVOP, you can see that currently it's also battling that resistance here as well. There's a reason why BTPT hasn't broken out, is because it's stuck in a range, right? This is resistance over here. Initially, I was hoping they'd hold as support, but nope. Broke down underneath right now is resistance until proven otherwise. But down below, you have all these different moving averages as support. Down below, you have the Bumaka support band here as support. Up above, you have the Ichimoku resistance up above as resistance. It's stuck in a range. It's building up a lot of energy. And I find it to be reasonable to kind of DCA into this play, just because I think it's much less talked about, to be honest. BNR and SBET has a lot of attention being paid to it, so I don't really like that as much. But the other play that I favor based on looking at like a higher time frame technicals, that is also more of an Ethereum treasury play, is BTCS. BTCS has a very nice Adam and Eve double bottom that's being formed right now. And currently, if you look at the high here and the low here, you can see how it's just been battling all these different fit levels. It so far wants to reclaim the 0.5 here as support. So that's great. And the other thing that makes me feel more favorable is that it did end up entering the Ichimoku cloud. Now, just like BMNR is also stuck between the Tenkan and the bottom of the cloud. It entered the cloud and it's stuck between the two, right? And I would show you here, it entered the cloud and stuck between the two. These two are very, very similar, although BTCS seems to be a smaller cap company, and BTCS seems to be less talked about. And on top of that, it's been forming higher lows and higher highs for about 2.5 years now. It makes me feel more comfortable being in this play as opposed to being on BMNR, which has not really had that proper higher highs and higher lows quite just yet. Now, on top of that, I also find that the monthly Bollinger Band expansion to be quite promising. This usually tells you that, hey, maybe a more volatile move is going to come. If we end up breaking above the resistance, the volatile move is going to be to the upside. So I find this to be a little bit more of a favorable play. Finally, I'm going to talk about this one that I haven't really looked at much. But somebody was talking about Game Square Holdings. I have a hard time getting into this one. The reason why is if you're looking at BTCS, for example, is reclaimed the 20-month moving average and it's got a Bollinger Band expansion already. BTBT is working on it. It's got a Bollinger Band contraction, but it's trying to reclaim the 20-month moving average right there. BMNR is already having a bullish band expansion, and the 20-month moving average is up curling. SBET has also reclaimed the 20-month moving average, and you got a little bit of bullish band expansion right there. So in a higher time frame, these plays are decent. The only issue is game. It is having bullish band squeeze here, which tells you maybe you're going to get a little bit of a strong trend change here soon, but it's still having a hard time breaking above the 20-month moving average. So another leg down is possible. I just tend to want to do the safe thing here. And this is also a very small cap stock here. So be a little bit more careful when it comes to stuff like that high risk, high reward. See how it didn't end up breaking above, even though the fundamentals of this company has changed. They are holding Ethereum supposedly, but it's not able to break above because you're still underneath a lot of resistance, and this is still a downtrend until proven otherwise based on all these different levels. Thank you so much for listening to this 20-minute video, guys. Talk about Ethereum and Ethereum related plays here on the stock market. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.